I wonder what's been doing well on my channel. Oh, Persona! Great, let's talk about Fate Grand Order then. Hold up, Fate Go? Yes, Fate Go. I was watching my friends do their summons for Summer Miyamoto Musashi the other day, and then they said that I should try it, that I should roll. And that got me thinking about why I dropped Fate Go to begin with. In a nutshell, I hated it. But where does such a hatred come from, you ask? Given that I'm a big fan of Fate myself, I should really like Fate Go because it's just a huge conglomerate of all my favorite characters, right? Right? No. Warning. All of the opinions I'm about to express are purely subjective and come from the point of view of someone who despises gacha as a fundamental mechanic. For those of you who don't know what gacha is, first of all, bold of you to click on this video without that knowledge, but I admire your enterprising spirit. Gacha is basically a system where you have a currency that you use to roll for a random chance of getting characters or items from a predetermined bank of characters or items that can change over time. These changes are meant to pressure you into rolling before the character you want goes out of rotation, and if you lose all your currency and become unable to roll, you supplement your in-game funds with your hard-earned money that was meant to go to feeding your kids. I think that Fate Go is a bad game masked by various alluring features, such as character interactions you would never get anywhere else, a frankly impressive amount of characters, and getting to own your favorite waifu as a PNG. And sometimes as a swimsuit doll. These were all what drew me into it, but what is all of it locked behind? The character interactions are locked behind multiple weeks' worth of monotonous grinding through the main story. The impressive amount of characters is to fool you into thinking you have any kind of choice to make, where, in reality, it's really being made by RNGesus, who tends to be unkind. And getting to own your favorite waifu as a PNG? That chance if you happen to want a 5-star, which is what most of the popular characters from the series end up as. Shit, it's a craft essence, it's cool, but it's still a craft essence. I like Sakura, but it's still a craft essence. Damn it, damn it, damn it. No, this one's actually pretty good. I went into this game having 3 servants I wanted, being Ishtar, Archer from Stay Night, and Jeanne d'Arc Alter. I managed to roll Ishtar when she was available, but went broke after rolling for Archer during his banner, despite him being a 4-star, and then saved up as much as I could for Jalter's banner, in which I went broke again. I had to wait months and dump all of my savings for a chance to get the characters I wanted. Now, you could just say that I'm being a piss baby because I only got 1/3 of the characters I wanted, and you'd be right. But the gacha is the biggest thing I have against this game. I fundamentally disagree with having an overwhelming possibility of not getting to play as the characters that you want in a game that you've played for potentially years. That is, of course, unless you bring out what the game was actually designed for, your wallets. Every enjoyment-robbing issue I described is entirely eradicated if you have unlimited money works. The issue is most people don't. Most people would rather just stick to getting as much as they can for free, and fair enough, I did the same. But this brought me to thinking about the double standard I have towards free-to-play games with in-app purchases compared to $60 games, for example, which may or may not have in-app purchases. Is there really a difference between paying $60 for a game up front instead of potentially investing $60 into a free game over time? I'd say yes, and here's why. It all has to do with the game's design philosophy. The free-to-play game was made with coercing the player to spend money on in-app purchases in mind. You rarely see a single menu in which there isn't something you can spend your premium currency on. However, I only really see this as an issue with free-to-play mobile games, and that's because most mainstream free-to-play PC and console games tend to only have aesthetics such as skins and voice lines locked behind currency and loot box type systems, aka gacha. Now, I have kinda been crapping on free-to-play games a lot without acknowledging that this is not at all uncommon for not free games to have the exact kind of systems in place. That said, the most notable examples of games like this are made by EA. You can never invest too much money into an EA game. Aside from having to buy a new FIFA every year at full price, it still has the similar gacha system that Fate Go has where characters/players are locked behind roles that you'll end up having to put money into to get the ones you actually want. Except Fate Go is actually free, so the game I initially intended to bash somehow came out looking good for this comparison. I think that says a lot about how much I dislike EA as a developer. Since I've covered both types of games, you're probably sitting there wondering why I even like video games to begin with if all I do is complain about how much money goes into being able to have fun with them. Well, that's because not every game requires you to sell your colon in order to be able to enjoy it. In fact, most don't. Most flagship Switch games are $60, but they're that expensive because Nintendo knows the consumer trusts their ability to make a quality game enough to where that they can charge that much while actually making a game worth that price. Hey, quick editor's notes. I realize I kind of contradicted myself by saying that you shouldn't have to sink a lot of money in order to be able to enjoy a game. And using expensive Nintendo games is probably a bad example of that, but the point I was trying to make was that games should sell themselves because of their own quality, as opposed to a gimmick that just requires you to fire your money into a nebulous void in hopes for a return that may never come. Now, I'm not gonna say Nintendo is a saint and that they aren't greedy, because they are, but the point I'm trying to make is that Nintendo makes games that are designed to be enjoyed, which in turn gives them the trust of the consumers, which turns into more profit and business for them. Free-to-play gacha games like Fate Go are designed from the ground up to make money, not to be a fun experience for the player. Assuming you actually managed to summon the servant you wanted, the game itself is pretty bare bones. Like, sure, as far as mobile games go, it's pretty fleshed out, especially given how much time it's had to expand in its 5 years of life. I actually think it's 6 now. But that's because mobile games set the bar so low for what is considered entertainment, Fate Go looks like a revolutionary masterpiece by comparison. Take Subway Surfers, for example, a game that I know many people played for their childhood way longer than they should have. I know I did. Subway Surfers is a game meant to take up as much of your time as possible. It's not designed to be fun, it's designed to take up your time. Because you end up spending so much time on it, you begin to believe that it might be worth it to invest a little bit of money in order to get closer to unlocking a new upgrade, or getting a new character to play as. There's a novelty to seeing how far you can get and comparing it to your friends, but that's all it is, it's a novelty. It's a significantly more bare bones game than Fate Go. Now, you could compare a game like Subway Surfers where you're trying to stay in as long as you can and get the highest score to an arcade game. The similarity and the inspiration is definitely there, but you don't take the arcade game with you wherever you go. You can't invest into the premium currency of an arcade game because it doesn't have one. You put in a coin or swipe a card in order to play it once, maybe twice, and then leave. With arcades, the novelty of seeing how far you can get doesn't overstay its welcome because of how little time you spend on each game. Most of what I just shared on my opinions of Fate Go apply to mobile games as a whole, mostly, gacha games in particular. But there are a few things that Fate Go does especially poorly that I just have to comment on. Firstly is the absolute lack of game balancing up until the 6th chapter of the main story. You get the opportunity to use one servant from another player online per mission, and these servants are usually max level with all of their abilities maxed out and a rare craft essence placed on top of them to buff them even more. Because of these servants alone, you can blaze through the game on borrowed power until nearly the end of the main story. The grind to get that far in the game was also very monotonous and way too long. The only reason I was able to stay sane after that much nothing was because I was listening to the Trash Taste podcast the whole time. I'd listen to like 2 or 3 2-hour podcasts a day while grinding this out. Yeah, if you hadn't noticed, I had a lot of free time. Taking all this time to complain about mobile games should have told you that already, but I digress. The other thing is that spending money in Fate Go actually sounds like you would be better off just setting it on fire. It's shockingly not worth your while. Each Saint Quartz corresponds to about $1, and you need 3 Saint Quartz to do a single summon, or 30 Saint Quartz to do a 10x summon. Now, as you go higher on the list of what you're willing to pay, they'll throw bonus Saint Quartz at you as a reward. You can end up paying $80 for 167 Saint Quartz. You heard that right, you can spend $80 on a free game in order to roll 55 times and still have a pretty high chance of getting none of what you want. Isn't that a steal? I gave Fate Go a chance, but once I reached the final boss of the main story, I just got fed up with the game. My servants were not ready to be that far in the game, and in order to prepare them, I'd have to do an obscene amount of grinding. For a game that's actually fun? Sure. But I don't see myself picking up Fate Go again anytime soon. I won't be able to avoid it because I see art of it all over Discord, but from the beginning it was all about PNGs anyway, so. I do think it's kind of a shame because I conceptually really like what Fate Go is going for. A massive collection of all your favorite characters spread across the entire Fate universe is a really cool idea, and I found myself pretty interested in the story as it went on, but the game attached to it wasn't worth slogging through in order to build my collection or progress the story. All the promotional material is so good too. It's all a marketing scam in the end, but I don't mind being a victim to good marketing if the product is good, like Beyblade. In retrospect, the anime is nowhere near as exciting as I remember it being 10 years ago, but the toys themselves I still think are fire to this day, and I'm not sorry about that. Thank you for listening to me ruin any chance I ever had of getting sponsored by a mobile game in the future. Not that I get sponsored anyway. Anywho, let me know in the comments if you like Fate Grand Order or any other kind of mobile or gacha game that has all these features I dislike. Because you know what, if you like it, you like something that I can't. Power to you. And if you like listening to someone extremely underqualified talk about things they know nothing about but are extremely passionate about, I would kindly ask you to subscribe. With that, I am reminded that I have no outro, so why don't we just cut to the end screen.